Hey everyone, it is Nina, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about conditioning and fears with manifestors. So I'm going to be going through a couple of the biggest fears that manifestors may experience in their lives. And this is based off of my own experience and also observing all of my friends who are also manifestors and working with clients and seeing these reoccurring themes. So the first thing that I really want to go into is a really big one. It is a fear of rejection and abandonment. It is this fear that we are too much. So from a very young age, we may have been conditioned to be like generators or been put in a box or been like, we need to behave in a certain way or be a certain way. And so it's almost like we have this big energy within us and we don't know how to necessarily channel it. We don't know how to work with our urges and our rest cycles. And for me personally, it has been like, wow, I'm too much for people. And I've had to keep myself in this very small box because I was too much. My emotions were too much. And whenever someone would be like, oh, like energetically it would feel really weird and they would leave me, or I've had really important relationships leave my life, and it was just like completely erupted this huge wound of rejection and abandonment because I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm too much and I need to tone myself down. And over time I was like, wow, like I really do suppress myself and put myself in a box. And part of that was because I was afraid of my own power. And so I would keep myself very small because I didn't want to hurt people. And that seemed to be like this reoccurring theme. There was something wrong with me, and after a while, it was just like, I started to realize as a manifestor, our energy is for the people who need to be around us. We're here to have an impact on people, and how other people react to us has nothing to do with us. And when we are fully aligned and stepped into our power, then the right people will come to us, and those are the people that we need to have an impact on. And this is an idea that I have sat with and contemplated with for a very long time, for the past year or two, and have really been able to work through and look at those deep fears and wounds of rejection and abandonment where that has happened throughout my entire life, and I've taken it very personally. But in reality, it's like relationships fall away, and they fall away because each person evolves. And so it teaches you to not get too attached, but also sometimes people leaving your life show you where you are not in alignment with yourself and where you are keeping yourself small. And so it's actually a very big gift for people to show you that, as much as it hurts. And so I just want to share that because it can feel very lonely, and it can feel like, wow, there is something wrong with me. And we don't even realize that we're holding ourselves back and we're holding our power back and really sharing with the world and having the impact that we're meant to have on the world, because we're like, we really want people to like us, or we don't want someone to leave us. And that's actually our work to look at and say, I can sit with that. And what's really helpful with this specific fear, especially as a manifestor, is inner child work. And that has been something that has been so incredibly helpful for me in healing those rejection and those abandonment wounds, because it has taught me to give myself love and compassion and to accept all parts of myself, especially like that little child that's inside of me that needs that love and attention, that could not get it from other people outside of me, that I felt rejected or abandoned me. And when you start to do this inner child work and you start to give that to yourself, you're going to stop seeking that outside of yourself, and you're going to step more into your power. You're going to have more grace and compassion on yourself, and you're going to be more in alignment with yourself and move from that place and not be so afraid of, being too much or being rejected or abandoned. So that first fear is a segue into the second fear, is the fear of our own power. So as manifestors, we have this huge aura that is like, people feel us when we walk into the room. We have this big energy. We're here to just bring newness into this world, initiate new things into the world that are not here before, and we do it in a very big way. And as children, we can be conditioned to really suppress that, or we were maybe punished for having big emotions or big ideas or going off and doing things, and so we learned how to push that down, or we learned how to be afraid of our own power because other people were afraid of it. And especially when you are a child or you're growing up and people are rejecting you or they're trying to suppress you, and you might internalize that and say, wow, there's something wrong with me. There's something inside of me that's uncontrollable. And so this becomes this really big fear because we do have a lot of power within ourselves. And so just to kind of add on to what I just said, a lot of it is just being able to come back to yourself and begin to do that inner child work and begin to own that power that lies within you and to not be afraid of it. Because when we have this much power within ourselves, and everyone has this, but from like a perspective of being a manifestor, it's like we have this power, we're afraid of hurting other people, and maybe when we have really stepped into that power, we have hurt other people and it wasn't intentional. When you hurt other people, it is rarely intentional, and if you do, it's an unconscious thing that comes from a place of lack of love or a call for love. And so you can't ever put this blame on yourself and be hard on yourself because you're afraid of your power or you're afraid of hurting other people. This is just part of the deconditioning process as you are peeling back these layers and really getting to know yourself. And the more that you get to know yourself and the more you acknowledge these parts of yourselves and you speak to them, speak to that part that is fearful, and you say, why are you afraid? And you learn how to create this coherence within yourself so you don't have these conflicting voices or parts within yourself. So, there's inner child work, there's parts work, there's this deconditioning process where we're becoming more self-aware of these fears within us. And that is when we can do that work and we can start to sit and contemplate this and start to take different actions and behave in different ways than we did before, so that we're not so afraid of our power or suppressing it. And for me personally, this has been a lot of my own work of having conversations with these different parts of myself when I'm in my own space by myself or with a therapist, when I have something that's conflicting inside of me, to do that inner child work, to dance and be crazy and be wild in my own space even when it feels uncomfortable, because I'm getting to know this big energy that resides within me. So the less that I'm afraid of it, the more that I'm able to share and show it with other people. So again, this is just part of the deconditioning process where we're learning to get comfortable with our own power, and it's not something that we necessarily need to be afraid of. Another fear is that we are alone and misunderstood. And while that is definitely a reality for a lot of manifestors, it is just a perception that is based on years of being suppressed and other people rejecting us because they don't understand us. And this is not a personal thing. This is something that a lot of manifestors really struggle with, because we kind of feel like these lone wolves. We have this aura that is very closed off, so it's more difficult and challenging for people to come in. It's difficult for us to let other people in too, because of how much we have been tried to controlled for most of our lives, because people don't understand us. And so it can feel like this very lonely state where we're like, we have to do this on our own. And while we can do a lot of things on our own, this is actually where our Defined Throat Center really comes into play to really help us, because when we are alone and we learn to voice our intuition from our spleen, if we have that defined spleen, or our emotions from our solar plexus, or our willpower about what we really desire from our heart center, depending on what your authority is, we can learn to communicate to allow other people in, so we don't have to do everything on our own. And it doesn't matter what type you are, or how many pentagates you might have in your chart or not have. We are human beings and we need connection, and we need that intimacy with other people. And so while yes, manifestors are here to be kind of like a lone wolf energy where we go off and we do things, we're always going to come back and we're going to need connection, and we're going to need touch, and we're going to need to be around other people because we are human beings at the end of the day. So it can be a very healing moment for us as manifestors when we start to become aware of when we are being closed off to other people and where we might be encountering a lot of resistance to help from other people. And so again, this is a process of really just learning how to use your voice and starting to get really comfortable with it, and using it in a way that is empowering to us, so that we are not acting like we are victims, because we are not victims. We don't need to isolate ourselves. We don't need to push other people away just because we feel misunderstood. It is our responsibility, just as people, or as a human being in general, we need to communicate. And we have such a powerful throat center in order to do that. And we have our own special gifts based on what our incarnation cross is and what channels we have that are directly connected to our throat center. That is how you are going to speak and communicate your needs to other people into this world. And so when you start to pay attention to that and become more aware of that, then you can start to play around with it and say, okay, if I have, a connection from my solar plexus to my throat, how can I best communicate my emotion? What are ways that I can do this after I've sat with myself and I'm clear? Or are there people that I can go through and I can sit with and they will be there with me in my emotions without trying to change me and just allow me to process them so that when I am clear, I can communicate? Or, if I have, a defined spleen as my authority as a manifestor, can I sit and listen to those hits within my body of what my intuitive hit is? And can I communicate that unapologetically, even if it goes against the grain of what everyone else is saying around me, even my own mind? And same with your willpower. If you have a defined heart center as your authority as a manifestor, are you able to honor the desires that you have coming up and the will to execute those and to be able to share and speak those, to share with the world? Because we, again, are here to have an impact, and we have this direct connection. All of these channels are leading up to our throat center in order to be expressed. And so when we are in alignment and coherence within ourselves, that is when we can have the most impact on people around us. So again, we are not victims. The more that we blame others outside of us that say, oh, they don't understand us, we're just misunderstood, that is just a victim mindset. And it's conditioning, it's something that we have learned. And because we are like these wounded animals that have retreated and are licking our wounds, and we're saying it's their fault, when in reality, as sovereign beings, we are here to take responsibility for the creation of our own reality and whether we are in alignment with ourselves or not. And the more that we play around with this and experiment with it, of course, it's going to be uncomfortable, but this is how we're able to develop more connection with other people, and we can empower ourselves to be able to share what we really need and to have that impact on other people. And also be able to soften as manifestors, because there's this misconception that manifestors are we're this masculine energy, and we need to we have this big repelling aura, and it's not true. We are very soft and cuddly beings, and when we allow ourselves to tap into that and we're able to communicate through our throat center what we really need, other people will come and in our energy, and they will support us in the ways that we need to, in that very soft way. And so a few things that have really helped me in order to really communicate what my needs are so I don't feel like I'm isolating myself or feeling like a victim is getting really comfortable with using my voice. So a lot of vocal toning is incredibly important to get really comfortable with your voice, to even hear what it sounds like. So when I say vocal toning, it can literally just be singing songs or kind of just, doing these waves with my voice, or just screaming, or just allowing sound to come out, because it is an energetic release. And when that is coming out of us, it is something that we are now aware of and we can acknowledge, and we don't have to be afraid of or try to hide from other people. So the more comfortable that we start to get with even the sound of our voice and being able to use it in different ways, even if it's awkward or uncomfortable, this is going to be so incredibly empowering for us to be able to use that throat center more. And when I say doing vocal toning, I always do this on my own. I don't do this around other people. Typically it's in my car, or it's at the beginning or ending of my meditation when energy starts to bubble up, or maybe when I'm in the shower, I'll do these scales or these singing vocal toning exercises as well. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do that. And journaling is another way that you can just get things out. Sometimes when I have so many things going on in my mind, I'm I just need to write this all out to get organized and clear about what is going on, so it's not just stuck in my head. So that is one way that you can use your voice. Even though you're not vocally using your voice, you're expressing yourself down on paper, and you are allowing it to be free from this physical vessel that is within you. And it can literally be really awful things that you're writing, where you're mad at somebody or you're mad at yourself, and you just have all these hurtful things that need to come out. And it's you learn how to release that judgment and just acknowledge those parts of you. Again, some parts work here, where you can get it all outside of you, and then you can say, oh, that feels so good to get that outside of me. And then you can choose from that point on to create different belief systems or affirmations to say, okay, I acknowledge those parts of myself and I give love and compassion to them. Where can I take this and communicate my needs better? So it's almost when you get things down on paper, you have more clarity on how you can best communicate and work with other people and use your throat center. All right, so there are two more that I'm going to go through. So the first one is we have this unconscious fear that we are not going to have a big impact on the world. And I think this is a very common unconscious fear that manifestors aren't necessarily aware of, because we have this big energy, and because we've been suppressed, or we don't know how to step into our power, or we don't know how to use our voice, there's all these uncertainties, and there's also these unconscious things going on within us that's like, oh, we know that we're not fully stepping into our power, or giving all of our energy to these urges, or we're burnt out or whatever. And so we have this fear that we're not going to have an impact on the world. Well, it's actually impossible for manifestors to not have an impact on the world, because from the moment that we walk into a room, we have an impact on somebody. When we're in somebody else's aura, we have an impact on them. It doesn't matter whether we are initiating something big or small, just being around other people, we are initiating them energetically and having an impact on them. So this is something to start to pay attention to, and to actually acknowledge within yourself the power that resides within you just by you being around other people and how you initiate them. And when I say initiate people, it can literally just be, you're living your life. And so I'll give you an example actually. So for me, I'm starting my podcast and I'm talking about something. Well, somebody will come up to me and they'll be like, Nina, you changed my life. You said this one thing on your podcast, and it made me go do this, and it changed the trajectory of my life, or made me think about life in a different way. And I'm like, I was just doing something that I enjoyed doing and sharing, because that's, something I really love to do. It brings me joy, and that's how I can have an impact on other people. Or I'll walk into a room and someone will come up to me and I'll just be talking to them, and just one-off thing that I'll say, it'll kind of leave them like, holy shit. And sometimes it will be uncomfortable for people to hear me say something, or my energy will feel disturbing to them, but it's actually almost like provoking them and having an impact on them to see things from a different way, or it might be a trigger for them. And again, it's not a bad thing, because their reaction has nothing to do with you. It's just your energy that is here having an impact on other people, for them to contemplate or view their life from a different way or different perspective. So just who you are energetically, walking into a room, being yourself, you are having an impact. So continue to remind yourself of that, because it is something that is very natural for us that we don't always acknowledge. And the last fear is that other people will try to control us as manifestors, which is a very valid fear, because most of our lives, this has been the case for many of us, where, people don't understand us and our power and what we're, going off and doing. And so they will try to control us. And as a young child, obviously there needs to be boundaries about, safety of children, and there comes a time period where you transition really into adulthood and you can make your own decisions. So I'm not speaking so much about children, but definitely as adults, when we are able to really fully take care of ourselves and make decisions, make conscious, aware decisions, no one is controlling us. It is only our belief system and us giving our power away to other people, saying, oh, this person is doing this, and so that means that I can't do this. And that is just a victim mindset. We are sovereign beings. We are not meant to give our power away to other people and say, oh, we can't do this. It's like, oh, well, my boss did this, and so I can't do this. Or, I'm in this 9-to-5 job and it sucks. And it's like, okay, well, you can take responsibility for that. Your job is not controlling you. Your boss is not controlling you. And if we continue to play into this mindset that we are victims and that other people have this power over us, that is how we are going to live our lives and continue to live our lives, and how we are going to perceive the world around us. And so part of this deconditioning journey is really stepping back into your sovereignty and really owning your power. And it can suck a lot of times. I'm not going to lie, because you're going to have these wounds and these triggers where you don't want to take responsibility for being the victim for most of your life period. So it's this period of really waking up and having to be very, very humbled, basically, of, saying this person or this thing was hurting me, and that's why I'm mad, and that's why I can't do this. And, this person did this to me 5 years ago, and so it's made me such a bitter person. you're the only person that is hurting yourself because you're giving your power away to somebody else and you're allowing that to control you. And in reality, you're the one who can say, well, that person that did that to me 5 years ago, and I let it go and I forgave them and I forgave myself because I am no longer that person and I have learned from that. And so you learn how to take back your power and know that no one can have control over you. And so as manifestors, it is our responsibility to become more aware of ourselves and where we are giving away our power and allowing other people to control us in the way that we perceive other people in our world and reality around us, which is based on our unconscious belief system. So there's a lot of belief system work that we can do with this. And I work a lot with somatic therapy and EFT tapping and NLP and all these different ways that, and gene keys and contemplation. Like there are so many different tools that you can use to really start to become aware of behaviors and belief systems within yourself and release them in a lot of different ways so that you can be more empowered and not allow other people to have control over you, because in reality, no one has control over you. It is just your belief systems and how you perceive the world that is making you believe that something external has control over you. So that is all that I have to say about manifestor fears and conditioning. These are really big fears that I have worked through a lot just in the last few years, and it has been very humbling and has been a rocky road at some times, because when you start to go inward and go into these unconscious aspects and these shadow aspects and these layers within us that are kind of like you're opening up wounds that you had pushed down and you were not aware of before, it can feel kind of destabilizing at times. But this is the deconditioning work. This is where you become very honest with yourself and you start to step more into your sovereignty. And there's so many tools out there. There's so much support from other people online and in person and therapists, and human design is another tool to bring you that self-awareness. And so I hope that this has been helpful to uncover some things within yourself or activate some things within yourself as a manifestor, so you can start to step more into your own power. And for me personally, my own deconditioning journey, I have worked with a lot of therapists, but I've also done a lot of my own work on my own to figure out how this really works for me and how I can decondition on my own. And so, like I said, the big tools that I've really used are gene keys and contemplation and breath work and inner child work and EFT tapping. And these are all things that I work with my clients on. I work with a lot of manifestors who are looking for that clarity in their life and they're looking to step more into their power. So I use the combination of human design and all of these different tools to help you and support you and to step into your own power again. So if you are interested in that, you can click on my website at nina-elise.com. I would love to do a reading or start working with you in some form of mentorship in some way. You can see the details on my website. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm curious if there are any other fears or things that came up. Maybe this was a trigger for you, or maybe these things are things that you are dealing with that you need a little extra support. Please leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. All of the comments are so helpful. At the end of every single video, I always go through and read them, and I always learn and grow just listening to your comments and hearing your experiences. And then also for anyone who is not a manifestor, I hope that this is helpful for all of those manifestors in your life to help you understand where they may need a little bit extra love and a little extra compassion, because you know, we are human beings just like anyone else, and we need that extra love and support, even if we don't know how to necessarily ask for or communicate it yet. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.